All right, Craig, take it away.
Okay, I'll continue on the theme that I started with the previous demo, and that is exploiting Windows services that are misconfigured to obtain privilege escalation on a machine. So this one I'm going to demo is going to be exploiting a service, which the path to the executable for that service has spaces in the folder structure, and it is not enclosed within quotation marks in the registry. So let me go ahead and show the group kind of what I'm talking about here. So here's the service that we will be going after, and I'm going to try to use a magnifier. Let's hope this works so I can blow it up for everyone. So we can see here, it's the unquoted service, unquoted path service. And here, the path to the executable is right here, and it has this space. It's got these several spaces, and this whole thing is not enclosed in quotation marks. To show one that is properly configured, that has the spaces in there, I can show the VMware tools. And we can see here, it's got the space here, VMware space tools, but it is enclosed in quotation marks. So this is legitimate. The other one is misconfigured and gives us opportunity. So how can we quickly find some of these things? I'm going to go ahead and bring up a user command prompt here. Who am I? I'm just a standard user to show that anyone can run this query. And it's a WMI query that will find these opportunities. So let me go ahead and copy that and run it. Get this out of the way. And we can see here, there's a couple of them, but namely the one that we're going to be after is this unquoted path service. And here it is here. And then we can see here's the path. And the problem is these spaces here, this space here, and it's not enclosed in quotation mark. And so I'm going to bring up just another view of it, and then I'll explain why that is an issue. Just going to look at some of the details of the service. First off, here's the service name, and this is what we like to see. It will be starting as local system when the service gets kicked off. And again, here's just another view of that path. So the issue is how Windows wants to work is it's going to, when the service goes to start, it's going to want to try to launch c:/program.exe. When it doesn't find that, it will go on and it will try to launch program files unquoted.exe. When it doesn't find that, etc., and it goes on, it tries to find common.exe. This is going to be our insertion point, by the way. And when it doesn't find any of those, it goes all the way to unquoted service path.exe and it launches as normal. So that's kind of what we're going to look at here is we are going to create a common.exe to trick Windows into launching that instead of going through the full path. And so I want to show something briefly as far as if anyone's noticing there are other spaces, right? Why aren't we doing program.exe? Well, we're not doing program.exe because a standard user cannot write there. I'm just going to pretend like I'm copying over this file onto C, that's creating a folder on C drive. That's a fail. You have to be an administrator. We'll go next down the line, program files, unquoted.exe. Take this file here, we can't write there. That's administrative control, that's a lockdown folder. But when we come down to the unquoted, where the software is installed here and it's misconfigured, voila, we can actually write to this directory. So that's why that is going to be our insertion point versus these other points here. And another view of that, for those who are not familiar with Windows, we can go to the properties of this folder and go over to the security. I like coming into the advanced security, effective permissions, and you can look at the permissions of a specific user account against the directory. So I'm putting in the user account, and right there they have full control. So just another way to see that we have write access to this directory. Okay, so I'm going to go on over to our attacking machine here, and I'm going to create a executable that will run a Windows command to add a user. It'll add an administrative user. We're just using the username of hacker, password hacker123. It's going to output in the format of a Windows executable, and we're going to call it common.exe. In that same directory here, I am already serving up a Python HTTP server on 8081, so I can do the file transfer back to the Windows machine. So right here, I've just created the common.exe, which again, we'll go ahead and add a user to the local administrator group. So let's come back over to the Windows machine. And again, we're just going to stay as a standard, the same user, and we're going to program files on. Okay, so we're going to get into this directory here where we want that that executable, our payload, to show up. And I'm going to use certutil to do the file transfer. So this is going to go ahead and download common.exe via 8081. That's where we set up our listener. And this is a Kali VM address. So it says it was successful. Let's see if it was successful. Yes, it was. Here it is. And no smoke and mirrors here. This is the Kali machine, and we can see that we connected. This is the Windows machine at 129, connected and got the common.exe, brought it on over.
Could you run a net user really quick in your
Hey,
console?
I'm getting there, Candy.
Okay, I just want to show.
It's part of my steps. I'm making sure there's no
dirtiness.
Smoke and mirrors here.
Yeah.
Net users as
Okay.
part of it, you know.
Okay, fair enough.
We got administrator, guest, Jasper, and user. That's it for the users. So now we're going to go ahead and start that service. So again, that service is going to, where is it here? I just want to show again, it's going to try to launch program.exe, again, then unquoted.exe, and it's going to get here. And it's actually, instead of launching the whole thing, it's going to attempt and successfully launch common.exe. If the demo gods are nice to me today, they will. Okay, so Windows didn't like it, right? It didn't like the launch because it didn't really successfully launch the service. But if we're going to go to net users, and here we go. We just added our hacker user to the Windows system. Net user hacker. We can see that they are in the administrators group. Let's do a run as user. So we're just going to run a command. We're going to run a command prompt as user hacker, and I believe it was hacker 123, very secure password. And who am I? I'm hacker. So that's just to show that it is a legitimate account, active account in the administrators group. It has those privileges. So I want to talk about how this was possible, right? So I mentioned, so there's really two components that make this possible. It was the fact that that service, again, was not enclosed in quotation marks, but it was also because we could write to this directory. So there's two misconfigurations allowing this action to take place. And, you know, obviously the directory should be locked down. Standard users should not be allowed to write here. But another simple fix, I mean, I opened this up in the registry. This is where the path, I had mentioned it's the path in the registry that those commands are actually pulling, and this is it. So I launched this as admin just to prove how simple it is, right? So now we have C program files unquoted path. It's enclosed in quotation marks. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that hacker command prompt. I'm going to do net user hacker delete. This is an administrative command prompt, net users. We can see hacker is now gone from the system. Now if we do sc start unquoted svc, we get a different message. It actually started. So now that it's actually been in quotation marks, Windows did not try to launch program.exe, unquoted.exe, etc. It went all the way to the end because we told it this is the full path to where you need to be. And we can see where's the unquoted. See now the status, I don't know if anyone can see it, is actually started. So yeah, the moral of the story is bad coding, right? Bad application management. The directory should be locked down. If you have the spaces in the path to the executable, then you need to put it in quotations so Windows doesn't try all the other paths along the way. It goes straight to the end. And I had some past experience running a Nessus scanner for a previous job, and I'll tell you, these are not uncommon. So I mean, that was only 5 years ago, and these popped up more often than you would like. So, and in that case, it's probably just looking for the quotes, right? So maybe the directory structure actually had the proper permissions. Don't know, didn't dig too much into it, but either way, all it is, add simple quotation marks around the path to executable, and the vulnerability is gone. And so that concludes my demo. If there's any other
so Craig,
commentary on it.
can you show the your Kali box how you created your binary?
Yeah, that was just using the NSF Venom payload creator.
Okay. So I believe that there might be a special format called like service exe or something like that. So you can have interpreter just running as a service, I believe, right? So you know how you got the error message from Windows? I think that goes away when you use the template to actually do a service.exe.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Another option for the payload.
Yeah. I mean, this is just just a demo to show the vulnerability.
Yeah.
But if you're out there in the real world, you're probably not just, you may or may not be just creating a local user anyway, right?
Sure.
So
Cool.
Hey, Craig, I really like your demo. Do you mind going back to the Windows machine? Because I just have a couple questions about some of the commands that you use to initially find this.
Sure.
I like your run as command, by the way. I thought that was cool. I don't use that much. I like
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that with run as, but so I noticed that you threw a find string in there, and I've only ever used like when you were initially trying to find the services that were running. Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So I've only ever used find string like to do a net stat to find a port. So could you maybe expand a little more on like what you were doing with those find strings in order to find that? Like, so is find string more like a grep than
Yes.
what I can? Okay.
Yeah. Find string is a grep, and to be honest, this came from just my bag of tricks in my notes that I've collected along the way for
Sure.
Just for these type of activities. So I don't think I could explain every single thing it's doing, but it's doing the doubling of my query to get these services and just returning the various information about it. But yeah, the find string here, I would have to be quite honest, look up to see what every single one is. At the end of the day, I copy, you can copy paste this in, and it's finding the services that are misconfigured in this way so that we can see if we can leverage them.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Wow, it really makes one think about off-the-shelf software that's being developed, or in-house software that's being developed, and to pay attention to follow good conventions to.
Yeah, in-house software for sure, but again, from when I was running the Nessus scanner in that environment, it is unfortunately not only in-house software. It's a pretty common problem that I saw out there.
Yeah, so I can walk through the find string. So what find string there with the arguments I means it's case insensitive. The /v means the opposite of it. So you're only matching on the opposite of the v. So what it's saying here is that if you find one where I think it's quote, okay, so first one is if it's quote Windows, I think it ignores it because like Craig was saying, stuff in Windows you don't have write access to. And then I think the next one is if it has quotes. So that's what the next one is, right? So as Craig was saying, when you run that WMIC command originally, it will show you the actual string of what it will run for that service. So what that final one says is that if you find one that is not double quoted, then print it out for me. So that's what the combination is of the find string is doing there.
Yeah, you're right, Ken. You look at the V, right? The opposite does not have these quotes, right? Does not have a double quote. So good analysis there.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Cool. And you got another one for us, Craig?
Oh no, this was the one I had lined up today. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah,
so that's cool. Okay, so let me.
Wait, I had a quick question. Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
So I was like just doing a quick Google because I'm more of a Linux guy than a Windows guy myself, and I'd never really heard of what certutil is. But supposedly back in 2018, you could use this to actually like evade antivirus because certutil must have some kind of special setup in Windows that it can get around antivirus or something where antivirus isn't monitoring it, and you can use it to download URLs apparently. So does that URL cache? What my guess is just based on that flag name is it's downloading something you've already downloaded, but can you use that URL cache to download anything? Like like a wget in Linux?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I use this command to download it for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the one, it's kind of, I explained, I think last week in my previous demo, it's my go-to in these type of CTF activities for getting binaries onto Windows machines, is using the certutil.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So
Sorry. I wasn't here last week, so that's my bad.
Oh,
so
no, that's
so
fine. Yeah, it's very, I found it reliable along the way. So.
yeah. So Mikey, it sort of is very connected to what Dave was earlier asking about living off the land, right? So funny enough, certutil, the original purpose of it was to validate certificates. So you
Yeah,
can
that's what
see,
it says.
right? That's the original. But they're like, hey, but we want to download certs as well. We want to download revocation lists as
Oh my
well.
gosh.
But then because they're like, but then they didn't check that you can use it to download everything. So red teamers
Yep.
such as Craig use it in their tactics to download their malware.
That's
So
insane.
yeah, good times.
Wait, so then my follow-up question on this is can you the unquoted method, the operation where the service checks for the executable at the end of every single string with a space, does that still run on Windows 10? Is that functionality still run with services on Windows 10? Like I feel like Windows has all these bugs that never get patched because they're lazy. It's like why they never patched like the Mimikatz thing because
Oh geez.
sorry, this is kind of me rambling, but
No. This is good. This is sort of a really good discussion topic. So number one, and this is what I really like about this is why I want to do this group right here, right? Is so we can start exploring and learning about how these different technology works, right? So number one, you have to ask what part of Windows is in charge of parsing file names so that it will check the first thing and then it's like, okay, now let's assume that the space is a part of the name. Now let's check it as though it's one whole file. So that's actually that's how Windows itself checks file names and directory names when you give it. That's a fundamental aspect of
so
Windows.
this is like everything in the operating system. Wow. Okay, got it.
For Windows, right? For Windows.
Yep,
In
yep.
Linux is very sort of OCD in terms of it'll do exactly what you say. So if you
Yep,
put a
yep.
space, it assumes, oh, the next one is an argument, right? So why did
Yep.
Windows do it? So now we have to think about the designers. Like, okay, why did the developers originally do this? Because so bad users, right? Unintelligent users who don't want to double quote stuff. Oh, I just want to put a space in file names. So users can use space and file names and Windows could intelligently figure it out. So, once you think about the design, okay, that's the case. But then they didn't figure out, but wait a minute, a lot of these other services did not have that, did not design in security based on knowing how that mechanism works, right? And then that's why Craig finds this problem everywhere because developers are like, why do I need quotes? Windows knows magically everything, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how it does the parse name, right? And that leads to security problems, right? So that's why that's a really good question. And that creates us to sort of make ourselves better and know about technology more by digging in and figuring out, okay, how does it really work? What components is it working on? It's not the services. It's something more fundamental in Windows. And then that leads to another question about why did Windows design this in the first place, right? So really good questions. And those kind of questions will help us get better and improve security.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that wraps it up for that demo.